Hi, folks. Joseph Kursky here with you to talk about what we will do in week 5 of our geography course. First of all, as you already know, geography is essentially the study of everything in the world. Specifically, it can be defined as the study of how the environment affects people and how people affect the environment. So, how the environment affects people and how people affect the environment. If someone asks you that on the airplane, hey, what's geography? That's one thing you could say. Or the study of the physical features of the Earth and its atmosphere, and of human activity as it affects and is affected by these, including the distribution of populations and resources, land use, and industries. That's another working definition. Many subfields or facets of geography exist, such as economic geography, cultural or human geography, physical geography, geotechnologies, urban geography, political geography, critical geography, and others. An introductory geography course, such as the one you are taking now, is usually taught either as regional geography, where each region and its themes and characteristics is studied in a systematic way, region by region, covering the world, or thematic geography, theme geography, where themes such as urbanization, hazards, political situations, climate, weather, natural resources, and other themes of geography are studied systematically. And each theme highlights as a case study somewhere in the world where a good example of, let's say, deforestation or urbanization or some other theme exists. Now, this course you're taking right now can be thought of as a revolutionary approach. In other words, it doesn't really fit into any of the above two described approaches, though there is certainly nothing wrong with these approaches. Me, your instructor, I've designed the course to help you think about what geography is, but more importantly, why it matters, why it all matters. We will be working with regions and themes, but in doing so, the what's, where, why is it there, and why should I care context that you are already familiar with hopefully will shine forth and stand out. Now, this week we're going to be grappling with cultural geography. Investigating culture from a geographic perspective. Now, in geography, culture is usually defined as the shared characteristics and beliefs among a group of people, significantly influenced by and interacting with the physical environment and location where they reside. This is known as cultural geography, a subfield of human geography. Culture is something learned, passed down from generation to generation, integrally tied to a people and its history. Passing cultural traits varies by generation in how it is done and the elements conveyed. Thus, culture is dynamic, it's changing. It is different from ethnicity. Ethnicity refers to the traits that people are born with and have little choice in, including their genetic backgrounds, physical features, and birthplaces. Culture is what people learn after they're born. Individuals can change their own cultural traditions as they journey through their lives, certainly, but the adoption of cultural practices by a large number of people across a geographic region or area gives rise to the notion of cultural regions. One dynamic component of our complex Earth that we're living on is the human component. Over 8 billion humans shaping the world through their actions and even their thoughts. As with physical regions, cultural regions result from a complex set of interlocking systems. Systems can be broadly grouped into natural systems and human systems. This is an oversimplification, as humans have a deep impact on natural systems, and natural systems in turn affect human systems. One useful way to understand cultural systems is through the lens of cultural regions. That's why we're choosing to focus on it for these 2 weeks, actually, 2 weeks on this. Regions, too, are an oversimplification. The boundaries of regions, especially cultural ones, are fuzzy, somewhat subjective, and they change over time. Consider sports regions, for example. In which part of the country does a affinity or the affinity for one team stop and another team begin? Interesting to think about. So the first part of this week, we're going to examine cultural regions and cultural geography. Then we're going to talk about the spatial aspects of culture. We're going to study cities using this urban observatory. We're going to compare cities with interactive mapping tools. We're also going to address a certain aspect of culture, and that is clothing. In this case, we're going to look at hats of the world. Have you ever thought about hats from a geographic perspective? Interesting. How many hats do you own? Interesting. So, hats of the world. Examining place names is also part of cultural geography. Australian indigenous place names and other place names. Now, sometimes successive settlers on a piece of land added their own names to features with interesting results. Let me just share this story. Use Google Maps and search for Torpenhow Hill, Torpenhow Hill. According to some accounts, when the Saxons arrived and asked the Welsh the name for the hill, the Welsh said pen, meaning hill, in Welsh. So the Saxons used their word for hill, tor, and called it torpen, which means hill, hill. The Norse arrived and by the same process added their word for hill, hogr, which meant the hill was now Torpen hogr, hill, hill, hill. Later, the English called it Torpenhow Hill, 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 hill. Interesting. However, like much in cultural studies, and what makes cultural studies interesting is that this story is contested. There is a village called Torpenhow in northwest England, south of Wigton, with a low-rise hill nearby. But that last hill may be a modern invention just for fun. Torpenhow Hill exists on Google Maps. Search for it on ArcGIS Online or in Google Maps and on MapQuest. Does Torpenhow Hill exist in those mapping tools? Does Torpenhow, south of Wigton in northwest England, exist on those tools? I'll leave that up to you to investigate. The place that we're going to examine this week is the Midwest. What comes to mind when I say, where's the Midwest? It's fuzzy. It's a fuzzy boundary. It's a cultural region. Our thought leader this week is Louise E. Jefferson, geographer and cartographer. I think you'll really enjoy Louise's story and her maps. The event that we're going to analyze is the 1884 Meridian Conference. How do we figure out where the prime meridian would be located on the Earth? It could have been anywhere. The equator was easy, right? The equator is a given. But the prime meridian could be running through anywhere on the Earth. How did it get to be located running through England, Spain, and Ghana? So we'll talk about that. The tool that we're going to investigate is 3D mapping. Now, it makes sense that we have a 3D set of mapping tools at our fingertips because we have a 3D Earth. We want to be able to look at things in 3D. Look, what I mean by that is map and analyze. The geographic oddity that we're going to examine this week is Loving County, Texas. And you'll see why here this week. Loving County, Texas. What's not to love about Loving County? And the activity is going to be, this is going to be so fun. You're going to design your own flag and tourism brochure for a country. Yep, a flag and a tourism brochure. And then we're going to have our short quiz. And last but not least, in this part of the course, we're going to close with a geo song. And I'm going to say the following. I've mapped places far away, and I've mapped those that are near. Still mapping after all these years. Whoa, still mapping after all these years. I digress. I'll see you over there at week 5. Thanks.